If you're a fan of the show Outlander but have not read the books or the novellas, it can be very overwhelming trying to figure out how to read these books in order and where to begin. So I put together a list of all of the books and novellas and the order in which I would read them as a book reader. I will also add the list in the description box below so that you can copy and paste it into a note if you so choose. There are 22 books on this list, so it's going to be a lengthy one. The first book I would start out with if I was starting the Outlander series from the beginning is the novella titled Virgins. This is part of the larger book called 7 Stones to Stand or Fall, which includes 7, I think, short stories and novellas that Diana Gabaldon wrote for the series. As a fun fact, it was also edited by George R.R. Martin, who wrote, obviously, the Game of Thrones series. This novella is set in 1740 France with Jamie and Ian Murray, and all of the kind of young, naive thoughts and adventures they have while in France together. This is a prequel story, so it takes place before Claire comes through the stones. At the time of this book, Jamie is 19 years old and Ian is 20. After the Virgins novella, I would read the first Outlander book, where Claire comes through the stones for the first time. It gives you a little more context into who Jamie is as a person prior to meeting Claire. After that, I would read Dragonfly and Amber. Then I would read A Fugitive Green, which is part of the 7 Stones to Stand or Fall book. There's a lot going on in this book, so I don't want to go too in depth about what it's about, but it follows the story of Minerva Waddeswade and her connection with Hal Grey, which is Lord John Grey's brother. Jamie also makes an appearance in this book. There's a lot going on in it, but it's a quick read and it's a pretty good one. The next book after that is Voyager. Then I would read Lord John and the Hellfire Club. This takes place after Lord John leaves Ardsmuir Prison. This book can be found in the Lord John and the Hand of Devils novella book. After that, I would read Lord John and the Private Matter. This was actually the first novel that Diana wrote in the Lord John series, but if we're reading it chronologically, it would come here. Then I would read Lord John and the Succubus, which is part of the Hand of Devils book series. This sees Lord John investigating a series of murders while in Germany, and this takes place during the 7 Years' War. After that is Brotherhood of the Blade, which is the second novel and 4th story in the Lord John series. This is when we get reintroduced to Percy Wainwright in the story, and Lord John and his brother Hal, their mother is about to enter into a new marriage. Next up is Lord John and the Haunted Soldier, which is part of the Hand of Devils book. This novella follows the events of Brotherhood of the Blade. After that is a standalone book called The Custom of the Army, followed by The Scottish Prisoner, which was one of my favorites. This takes place after Jamie is a groom at Hellwater Prison, and it alternates between the perspectives of Jamie and Lord John Grey. It is so great if you like their relationship. After that is A Plague of Zombies. This is when Lord John Grey travels to Jamaica. He is investigating the murder of a Mr. Abernathy of Rose Hall in this book, so definitely an interesting read. Followed by Besieged, which is the involvement of Lord John Grey in the Siege of Havana, which takes place in 1762, I believe. After that, we're back into the Outlander books with Drums of Autumn, followed by The Fiery Cross, A Breath of Snow and Ashes, An Echo in the Bone, which is where a lot of our current plot in the show is taking place, which is followed by Written in My Own Heart's Blood. We're starting to get pieces of this book currently in the show. After that is one of my favorites. This is A Leaf on the Wind of All Hallows. This is actually about Roger's parents. It follows Jerry and Dolly during World War II and answers a lot of questions that were posed in An Echo in the Bone. After that is The Space Between, which is the story with Joni McKinney and Michael Fraser, which I touched upon in a previous video. This is when Joan travels to Paris with him to become a nun, and the stories that unfold with them, including a tie-in with the Comte Saint-Germain. And finally, the most recent book in the series, Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone. Now, obviously, these are very dense books. I personally did audiobooks for a lot of them. The novellas are short enough that I think they're quick, easy reads if you wanted to actually read them. I also highly recommend, if you have the option, downloading the Libby app and reading these via Kindle, because you have the search option. So if you're ever confused about something, you can always use the search bar and try and pinpoint the point you're trying to reference in your head. I do that when I make these videos all the time, and it is extremely helpful. Most local bookstores carry the main Outlander books. Not sure about the novellas. Those are probably a little harder to find, but if you can support your local bookstore and pick up your books there, highly recommend you do that as well. This is a lot, but happy reading.